B is the first mindfulness life skill of the authenticity stage and will guide you through how to just be, to live with purpose, passion, and joy. Building authenticity will help you to bring the best of yourself to any situation and have a better relationship with yourself and others. Being. Just be whilst doing. Joy is found not in finishing an activity, but in doing it. The first activity in the B life skill acronym is B, for being. Education. There are essentially two types of happiness. These are derived happiness, which is conditional, and underlying happiness, which is ever present. Derived happiness. Derived happiness is the emotional response to a situation or event we perceive as positive for us. This happy emotional response is the result of either a conscious or unconscious positive thought about something. Similarly, when we feel unhappiness, it's an emotional response to a situation or event we perceive as negative for us, so occurs when we have conscious or unconscious negative thoughts about something. Derived happiness and unhappiness are like two sides of the same coin. They are the body's response to thoughts about situations and events and are experienced relative to each other. Emotional ups and downs are an inevitable outcome of derived happiness, as it relies upon our perception and expectations of ourselves, others, and our life events. Underlying happiness. Underlying happiness is your natural state of being, your joy of being. It is not derived from anything. Underlying happiness is an ever-present, boundless sense of peace, warmth, and good feeling that is always emanating from you, but can be masked by mental or emotional strain. Unlike derived happiness, underlying happiness has no duality. That is to say, that it has no opposing unhappiness component. Underlying happiness, also referred to as the joy of being, is always emanating from you. It's just sometimes we aren't able to feel it if our awareness of it is masked by mental or emotional strain. In other words, the joy of being can only be felt. It cannot be thought. Next time you are in the flow, chatting with a good friend, embraced by a loved one, or playing a fun game, notice what that deep happiness is coming from. Is it from what is happening? No. You are experiencing the deeper emotions of joy and peace emanating from you because in that moment you've connected with and uncovered your underlying happiness and joy of life. Your heart is singing. By connecting with our underlying happiness, we can still enjoy the highs of derived happiness, but with much less volatility. We become less reliant on things external to us or out of our direct control for our overall happiness. We can also gain a sense of perspective and deep understanding in times when we feel unhappiness, and so be much better equipped to manage any lows. So, whilst leading such busy, challenging, and hyper-connected lives, how do we stay connected to our underlying happiness? This can be achieved by following one of three approaches or modes of being as we go about our day. Through acceptance, enjoyment, or enthusiasm, you can stay connected with your natural state of being, your underlying happiness, regardless of the situation or what you're doing. Acceptance. Acceptance of what needs to be done means that whatever the situation, whatever you need to do, you do it willingly, without resistance. You aren't grumbling or begrudging. Regardless of the task or reason for having to do the task, you are at peace. This is the best approach when you do not have the power to change the situation. Remember, allowing everything to be does not mean never saying no. It does not mean not trying to change the situation. Acceptance is an internal yes, rather than external. Through acceptance, there is no internal resistance, unnecessary judgment, or attachment to what may or may not happen, or have happened. As we learned in the ACT life skill, you see the situation as it is and take effective action. Acceptance is not so much something you can learn. It is more about changing the habit of non-acceptance, which is done through practicing the resilience and connection life skills we've already learnt about in the earlier videos. Enjoyment. Peace comes with acceptance of what needs to be done and can develop into a sense of enjoyment when you are fully present. This occurs naturally when you are in the flow. The enjoyment you are experiencing is really the joy of being emanating from you. Enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is felt through an activity that you both enjoy and that is aligned to a value or passion. When we are in the flow and acting aligned to our values, our focus remains on what we are doing now rather than the end result. We feel satisfaction and fulfillment during the doing as we make a valued contribution to ourselves and others. Activity. Check in on your state of being. Now, ask yourself, can I feel my underlying happiness, my joy, peace, warmth, aliveness, and playfulness? Am I feeling any mental or emotional strain right now? Can I shift my state of being to one of acceptance, enjoyment, or enthusiasm? Do I need to take a time out to use the resilience and connection life skills to help? Now, for the rest of the day, and in your everyday activities, check in with yourself to see if you feel connected with your underlying happiness. If you're feeling any mental or emotional strain, see if you can shift yourself into a state of acceptance, enjoyment, or enthusiasm as you go about your day. Each of these three modalities are appropriate to certain situations, from the simplest tasks to the most complex, but often it is useful to first shift our mode of being to one of acceptance to get ourselves going, and then dependent on the task, event, or situation, it may evolve into enjoyment or even enthusiasm. Try practicing the technique during activities you may consider boring, irritating, or stressful, such as ironing, your commute to work, when stuck in a queue or up against a tight deadline. Takeaway. Underlying happiness is your natural state of being, your joy of being. It is an ever-present, boundless sense of peace, warmth, and good feeling that is always emanating from you, but can be masked by mental or emotional strain. If you're feeling any mental or emotional strain, see if you can shift yourself into one of the three modes of being, of acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm, to reveal and feel your underlying happiness. Use this as a meta skill as you go about your day to manage your well-being, particularly when engaged in tasks, events, and situations that you may consider uninteresting, boring, tedious, irritating, or stressful. Remember, the joy of being can only be felt. It cannot be thought.